Fresh jumps out to me immediately if they want to set him up here for success in the 2v2.
With the Jace, LeBlanc, Akali bans, Lissandra, the final ban there from G2 as well. Looks like it might be an AD carry first for the side of Fnatic, but something like the Lucian's still available. The Kai'Sa is an interesting hover to me.
Yeah, Lucian is up and available, and let's not forget that Perkz is more than happy to play things like the Kalista and Draven should it be required. So I feel like G2 are more than happy as they have plenty of answers. I love the Akali ban coming out. We've seen it already earlier in the day. The buffs definitely make her a little bit more of a threat that we saw on 9.5. And in the hands of Caps, that is a very scary champion. So they do not want to give that one away.
Yeah, I mean, it's Fnatic banning away 3 very explosive, very lane-dominant champions. Yet G2 identify there's still a very strong flex pick option available. That, of course, is the Ryze. We've seen it go top lane, mid lane, all over the place. And it's very successful at securing a solid laning phase and a better lane game.
And I wonder if they look to put any value on the Jarvan here. Instead, they're just immediately going to lock in the Alistar. So they want to try and get Promiscu on something comfortable. It adds that extra bit of engage. But I feel like for Fnatic, they now have a lot of options. You could just go for the Jarvan and the Cassio right now. Cassio to answer up the Ryze, and Jarvan that can both be flexed between top and jungle as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here for Fnatic, but I specifically want to touch on that Alistar one more time because bringing the engage from the support role makes me feel like this Ryze could be going top lane here for Wunder, giving him something that can deal a little bit more damage. Lacks in terms of the all-in, but that's why you have the Alistar.
So we've got those next couple of picks coming in from Fnatic as well. It's the Rakan to match up in the bottom lane. You have the Karthus as well for Brox. They're playing it against the guy that really popularized it on the EU scene in the form of Jankos. Brox has gone 2-0 so far on that Karthus pick.
Now the Karthus is an interesting one to me because when I look at Broxa, the big improvements he's made is his early game pathing and his ability to impact the map and get his lanes an advantage. With the Karthus, it is much less about that idea of having a strong early game and more about securing strong scaling teamfight damage, which is what Broxa is now going to be bringing to the team.
But never forget, Ender, that when it's Fnatic, they will always find a way to gank bot lane. And when you're running the Karthus, it doesn't matter whether it's a good early game jungler or not. With a Rakan, they'll find a way to set up a play. They did it with the Vayne last week. It would not be surprised to see them make that trip once more.
And with Jisoo having not locked in their AD carry, we start to see the bans come towards it. Kalista taken away, Renekton removed by G2 as well towards that top lane. I wonder whether we'll see something like the Ezreal or the Draven removed as well.
No, I mean, Wunder plays for G2, mate. He's in the top lane. But in any case, with the Renekton banned away, this to me implies that they are looking for a potential Aurelia up towards the top side, given that he is very strong in the early laning phase. With the Aatrox focus as well, this just reinforces more and more Aurelia, Aurelia, Aurelia. And remember that it can be flexed towards the bot side of the map as well. They have that triple flex option should they want it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually see that lock in now, and then Fnatic try to find some kind of answer to it, and then it's whip-swapped all over the place.
I mean, hearing you talk about the flex picks for G2 just reminds me of the start of the split, this team where they could just draft 3 champions. They could basically go into any roles that they wanted to.
Oof, and how could we forget
with
the
Cassio being locked in, there's still options because Perkz can play that in the bottom lane, Caps can play it in the mid lane. G2 don't have to reveal their hand until they lock in their 5th and final pick.
A lot of damage coming out from that composition already as well. We talked about how explosive these teams can be. Remember the last time they faced up against each other, it was a 20-minute stomp, the fastest game we have ever had in LEC history. That includes all of EULCS as well. But the gauntlet has been laid down to Bwipo in that top lane. It looks like he's going to answer with an Aurelia of his own.
Wow. I love this pick so much from Bwipo. There's a lot of confidence to just blind pick the Aurelia. Now remember, it can still go into the mid lane. You do still have that flex option between top and mid. But given that both Renekton and Aatrox were banned away, G2 basically offered a free champion on the planet. But the gangplank now coming out from Bwipo, he was also buffed on this patch. Early damage to Kegs, giving him a little bit more damage in the early game, but it's also a very risky champion because he's something that in the past you could often just dive against very early on, and right now there's a lot of AP damage, but let's see what direction they take this draft now.
Yeah, I mean, the gangplank is risky, especially when you see top laners.
Come on! Okay, throw it all out the window. Get rid of your notes, get rid of your papers. Caps is laying it down against his former team. That's a Z mid.
Oh man, I love it too, because Vedius is saying, wait, there's a lot of AP on this team. You know what brings AD to the mid lane? Not the Yasuo, get rid of that. We want the Z now for Caps here.
Oh my
and it's
God.
up against the Aurelia as well. This is going to be a ridiculous 1v1.
But it's actually so good into Fnatic's comp as well, right? Because when you think about it, Rakan, yes, you can offer peel, and with his shield and taunt, maybe it can lock the Z down, but regardless of that, he's really good in the 1v1 against Irelia and Gangplank in a side lane. He's only going to get stronger as the game progresses. And if you ever try to force a 2 versus 2, Jarvan Z against Karthus Irelia heavily goes in the favor of G2 eSports.
It absolutely does. And if you look at the side Fnatic, you want reliable crowd control to shut down this Z pick, and that is just not here for them. All they have in terms of immediate CC is going to be that Rakan ultimate, and if you're using that just to lock up a Z, well, you're missing out so much in the team fight. I think Caps is going to have a field day here.
And I think what I love so much about this draft from G2 is it's almost like you're actually seeing G2 in full power. Perks locking in a mid lane, Cassio as well, one of his most well-known champions, and Caps on the Z. I feel like you could not be more unlocked than what you've got for yourself right now.
We've got a hectic game ahead of us, guys. We've got a Zed, we've got a Cassio, we've got an Aurelia. Let's just take a breath. Let's take a moment. Let's soak in the history that is this game. These teams have met 33 times before. 18-15 in favor of G2. Fnatic have won 9 of the last 11 games they played against each other, and Fnatic are the team on the rise. They're the team that still needs to secure their spot in playoffs. They're the team still fighting to make it to Rotterdam. G2 are there, and they are trying to slam that door in the face of Fnatic.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Fnatic versus G2. The crowd is amped. There are a lot of Fnatic fans. The fans at home voted for Fnatic. They expect them to be winning this game. And how can you not? Fnatic, they've had a miraculous comeback in the second half of the split. 6-1 games in their last 6 games. G2 are slumping, but when it comes to Fnatic, they are their bitter rivals, and they will not back down.
No, they absolutely will not. And I mean, as we actually dive in towards this game, we have to start looking at these matchups. And I see already Reckless started with the E here on the Lucian. He hopped over this wall. That's going to buy room for Hylissang to walk on in. And if Perk steps too close to this bush, it could be trouble.
Definitely could. He's going to hug the wall, though, slither his way down towards the bottom side. Fnatic won't find anything out of it. Looks like Broxah and Whipper might try for a bit of invade here, though. Straight onto Jankos. Force that Jarvan back. He's already tanking it up. Now he's stepping to the bush. He doesn't know. Now he realizes that they're there. Broxah and Whipper will force him away. Lay waste landing. But Broxah immediately says, okay, I want the red. I want to secure this for myself.
Yeah, and you'll see Jankos has to walk immediately out of this side of the jungle because you actually cannot fight against the Karthus level 1 damage. Now Brox is going to get to take the Raptors as well. And I wonder if he just immediately paths towards the bottom side of his own jungle, because right now the only answer for Jankos is to go from blue buff towards the Fnatic red and try to trade. And Broxa could easily shut that down just by moving.
But I think it's really risky to try to do that as well, because they don't have pressure in the bot lane right now. Cassio at early levels is very punishable, and you can already see that Hylissang moved up towards the river to drop these wards, and they have full information on what Jankos is up to, so trying to secure this would be risky.
Oh. Jankos didn't have the smite. Flawless duo is going to land from Nemesis, but Nemesis unable to get the Scuttle Crab with the Blade Surge.
And now this is actually really rough here for Jankos, because not only is he going to be denied in the experience department, but also Fnatic just know exactly where this early game champion is on the map. You know he now only has 3 camps available, the Wolves, the Gromp. He's probably going to be on that side of the map for quite a while at the very least, and it's going to allow Fnatic's players to play very forward in their lanes, to play aggressively and try to build up an advantage.
You can see the bottom lane actually, Reckless already building up a bit of an advantage for himself. 17 farm to 9 up. There is a wave pushing in here for Perks, but only 4 more minions there for him, so going to be a little bit of a lead. Top side Wonders ahead as well with about an 8 farm advantage over Whippo on this Gangplank.
Yeah, so this is all well and good, but we've got to talk about Zed versus Aurelia now. Like, the most important matchup in the game.
Hit me with your knowledge bombs.
So I'm a massive fan of this matchup because it is very skill intensive. The important thing to remember is that once level 6 is hit, is when things really start to get spicy. The thing about Zed is in the early laning phase, he can farm relatively safely safely, but it's Aurelia that typically has the pressure because of all the extra damage you get on your passive, and she also has the Q to farm a little bit in a safer position. And on top of her stun, that CC means that she'll often win out on these early skirmishes.
Now, Proxy is around this mid lane. We do want to just bring your attention, guys. Reckless is on our POV stream. You can see it in your bottom left corner, twitch.tv/RiotGames2. You can have a look at exactly how he's piloting this Lucian into Perks. A matchup for the ages, you have to feel, with there just being so much history between those two players.
There definitely is so much here between Perks and Reckless, playing against each other for a very long time. But this matchup in particular is also one that interests me a lot, because I think when you see actually Perks gets engaged on, gets take a lot of damage.
Flashes away the Ignite down as well. Miasma comes out, but all they wanted was Perks to summon a spell.
Now here's the thing, because I actually think Cassiopeia should have a good chance here. Now, we're going to have to put that on pause because Jankos is in the mid lane looking for Nemesis.
Nemesis has his flash. Jankos, can't really trade. It's
wave.
level 3 versus level 5. The minion wave is very big as well. Cap's already harassed down to half HP. And Nemesis, who remember replaced Caps on Fnatic, comes out on top in the early trades.
So, yeah, a couple of things to touch on there. First off, going back to the mid lane matchup just very quickly, because of the stun, it means the Caps has to be very careful when approaching the minion wave, because if he ever gets locked up, then the Aurelia is always going to win out on that one. And when he ults the Aurelia as well, remember that his landing point will be defined, because it will always be behind the Aurelia, which means that it's very easy for her to land the stun the moment that he comes out of that. So there are definitely opportunities for the Aurelia to outplay, but the amount of burst damage that the Zed will get as the game progresses means that even after the stun lands, it's very easy for Zed to just land his skill shots and then just obliterate the Aurelia.
Yeah, I think the other thing that sort of Caps has going for him in this matchup is that Zed holds a range advantage. When you can actually use your shadow to poke with the shurikens from long range, you can also clear away the waves relatively easily. Caps should be able to build up sort of an HP advantage in the 1v1 just by trading offensively with the shadow into shuriken.
So Perks backed away, used the teleport to get back into the lane, has a tear first on this Cassiopeia. Sometimes we see them go for the
Lost Chapter.
Lost Chapter as well. I was going to say Finished Codex, and I remembered that it's actually the Lost Chapter. Tear doesn't give you as much harass potential in the lane.
No, it doesn't. But mana is what's most important for Perks on the Cassio, which means that he's now going to have more spammability of the spells. And you guys will notice that in these early levels, Reckless has heavily dominated, but a lot of that has actually come off the back of Hylissang, largely because with Hylissang being able to approach very aggressively in the lane against the Alistar, it becomes difficult for the Cassio Alistar to really do much in the early laning phase, so they're zoned off a lot of farm, and they're kind of forced underneath their tower, where it can be rather challenging for Perks to actually keep up in the CS department.
Yeah, and while Perks might struggle to CS early on, I think the Cassio plus Alistar combo is absolutely deadly, because you can use the
100%.
Miasma to basically guarantee the headbutt pull. You can't flash away from that. So once level 6s come in, especially for Jankos, I'm going to look for G2 to make plays bot side, but right now it's Fnatic that want to do the same.
Looking for the play, the double knocker comes out. Reckless underneath the tower, Perks to burst the ball. Nemesis gets it. Promised you will follow up shortly after. Now Jankos could come and join this fight, but he's not going to be able to do it. The tower plates fall in the bottom lane as well, and Fnatic strike burst in the match.
Brilliantly set up there from Fnatic as the crowd goes wild. They're going to pick up 2 turret plates off the back of that, as well as Reckless jumps out to an 800 gold lead over Perks.
It was such a massive wave, and Perks needed to get that farm. His flash was down, and he just... everything that was in front of him, he needed, but Fnatic set that play up beautifully, as you said, Ender. They had priority in mid, they had control over the river, and there was no flash available on Perks. All of the ingredients were there to allow them to get the play, and Fnatic find themselves with 2 early kills.
Oh yeah, Perks had just also used his teleport to get back to lane relatively shortly before that as well, so there's no chance for him to make up in CS as Wunder.
Whippo so low, Wunder just takes him out. I mean, Wunder's had his number the entire time, but Whippo couldn't get away. Here comes the Requiem, it's enough! Rocks up, presses R, gets his 2nd kill of the game.
So it ends up being a 1-for-1 overall, but that solo kill is still a big deal for Wunder up in the top lane. Remember that Fnatic, they voluntarily picked the Gangplank. There was the flexibility option, but have a look at this. You can see that Zed and Jarvan, they couldn't get towards the bot side of the map fast enough. The double knockup coming in from Hylissang was beautifully set.
Oh, Cap's caught out! Hylissang ignited Is he going to tick away? No! Nemesis once again teams up with his support and gets another kill for Fnatic.
Yeah, and it's Hylissang actually finding all of these plays because it was in the bottom lane where he burned the flash off perks, then found the flash W engage underneath the tower, and with a good roam into the mid lane as well, Fnatic are out to a pretty sizable lead.
And the wonder we had coming into pick and ban was, could G2 shut down the Fnatic early game? Could they play at the same tempo as Fnatic in the early game? And I think plays like this show that it's just not happening for G2.
Oh, so Caps is going back here. I think he's sitting in the shop thinking that he's safe. He doesn't have his shadow available. Remember that at level 1, it's got an 22 second cooldown. I even think it's ridiculously high. So that wasn't up and available. And if he'd had it, he probably could have been able to kill Hylissang. But the moment that Nemesis joins the fray and that Hylissang buys enough time, it ends up being an easy kill. So that's a really big deal as Fnatic extends to a 2,000 gold lead in this early game.
And now as we sort of look to the side of G2, because they're down 2,000 gold, and yet they're the ones with like sort of the proactive early game champions. You have a Jarvan in the jungle here for Jankos that's been unable to sort of impact this map. You have the Cassio All-Star down bottom lane to try and set up for that. I really feel like we need to start seeing G2 combat against Fnatic in this early game, because right now Fnatic are sort of having their way with G2.
What I will say though is that while we are very early in the game as Fnatic look to set up another potential dive towards the bot side of the map, I do feel G2 have the scaling advantage. I feel that as the game progresses, Ryze in a side lane should be able to hold his own against both the Gangplank and the Aurelia. And Zed, as we talked about in the draft, also does very well in those 1v1s. So assuming G2 can split up the map, I think they're in a great position. But the problem they're going to find is that Fnatic are very good at converting their early leads into team fights later on. And with the Gangplank, Aurelia, and Karthus in those 4v4s, 5v5s, that is a very strong composition, and G2 might not be able to split them up.
Exactly, because I would agree with you that G2 do have the scaling advantage in the 5v5, but to me it's more about their front line in that front to back, because you have the All-Star plus the Jarvan. You have a lot more tools to try and soak up damage, whereas when I look at Fnatic's side, they actually have 5 very squishy champions. So yes, they're going to perform very well in these smaller skirmishes, but in the straight up front to back team fight, that's where it might be a little bit more difficult to find the proper setup.
So now we see Fnatic starting up the Cloud Drake. They should be able to secure this one pretty easy peasy, while Perks continues to fall at a deficit down towards the bottom lane. 40 CS is the difference now.
I mean, there's 40 CS in the bottom lane, as you say, as Rectus gets the advantage and the Dragon goes down, but you have to look up towards the top lane if you're on the side of G2. You've got a 35 CS lead. You've already solo killed Whippo as Wonder, and this was a matchup they talked about on the analyst desk, saying this could be a pivotal matchup for how this game plays out.
Yeah, it absolutely is, because if you look at what's been sort of going on recently, Wonder actually is topping the charts in most of these categories in terms of the laning phase, and now he's calling up Caps here. They want to dive on towards Whippo, and there's no one around from Fnatic.
Cannon barrage used by Whippo to clear out the wave. Caps just going to clear that control ward. Knows that he doesn't really want to go for the full-on dive when Whippo still has his flash available, and so instead we'll go back towards mid, which Nemesis has pushed out.
And Jankos was maybe looking for a gank in this mid lane, but it's not going to happen. Now, actually moving back towards that top side, I think it's really interesting, not just looking at the players in this matchup, but actually the champions. It's Whippo on a self-counterpick Gangplank up against the Ryze. Wonder's going to teleport in because he wants to take an aggressive trade with the rest of G2 on the prowl looking for the dive.
All of G2 on their way. The tower's still pretty tanky. Whippo still has the flash. No ultimate.
But Karthus is here as well, actually.
Yeah, could have been a strong counter gank there. G2 respect the fact that Boxer is nearby, still has the ultimate as well.
So what I found really interesting was we heard the analyst desk talking a lot about the top lane matchup, but I felt coming into this game, the jungle matchup would actually be one of the most pivotal, because something, Ender, you were saying before we even came into the game was, ooh, Caps.
Nemesis with a great long-range stun there from the flawless duet. Promiscu coming in as well, knocked up straight away, charmed up as well, will pop the ultimate. Dodges away from the Vanguard's edge. On a knife edge for Promiscu. Requiem. He's waiting for the ultimate to time out. That's a kill. Another one back to the fountain.
And it's perfect that Broxer just picks up the kill as I'm about to talk about him, because it is this guy that has made the early game so much better for Fnatic. You talked about it in the draft as well. You talked about it earlier on, Ender, but overall, this guy's early game impact is really what has changed the game for Fnatic, and he's actually where the goal difference is coming from. He's like a 1.5k gold ahead of Jankos right now, and he is getting so strong so quickly, only 12.5 minutes in.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's absolutely smashing. And honestly, this player went from maybe the 8th best jungler in the league in the first half because he was underperforming to one of, if not the best here, because he's actually just showing up Jankos in this match. You look at how he's been able to impact early games. This game, maybe not quite as much on the Karthus, he's picking up some kills with the ultimate, but you look at level 2 tower dives on the Nocturne as Broxa here. He has completely leveled up his game.
hylissang fighting here, the Deathmark comes out onto him, the Guardian will keep him alive just for the moment. Deathmark still proc, not enough damage, and the culling from Reckless straight onto Caps. Caps dodges back, can he dodge away from his former teammates? hylissang still has the chase, has the flash, jumps straight in. hylissang. Good night, sweet prince. You can change teams, but the result is still the same.
And Caps tries to go for a 2v1 outplay, cannot pull it off, and now there's more action up towards the top side.
Whipper flashes away, Cassiopeia and Perks on the way up here as well. Promiscu not going to go for the full-in dive, as Whippo just retreats behind the tower.
Let's just take a minute to appreciate, this is the 3rd time G2 have sent 3 or more members towards the top side to try and get a kill onto Whippo. He has not been caught out a single time. It is just the Herald there that they can use to trade a turret up top lane, but the rest of Fnatic now have bounties across the board. The entire team is actually just taking these turret plates and building up more and more of a lead.
Such an exciting game so far that Fnatic has been in full control of, and the member that I really want to draw attention to is Nemesis as well. Let's not forget the last time these two players met, it was very one-sided in favor of Nemesis, and now Caps on this Zed. He tries to go for the execution onto hylissang. He reads it too late. He's just trying to help wave clear, but he gets all these shields with his E. I think his passive may have even come back up there as well. I think he's running the Guardian as well, so he gets that proc off of from the Lucian, and then he just comes in, gets a knockup. Caps can't sidestep, and that's just a very easy kill.
Yeah, hylissang not going to take any chances there, using the flash to secure the kill on towards Caps. And Fnatic, they're not slowing down at all. They sort of saw G2 as the other early game focused team in the league and said, you know what, we're just going to beat you at your own game. And now with a 3,000 gold lead, once again, Whippo looking to be dove under the tower.
Cannonbarrage comes out, there's the Deathmark used by Caps straight away. Whippo, not many places for him to go apart from back underneath his last tower. Caps jumps back and Whippo still alive here. Caps couldn't go behind the tower. Nemesis actually has a great flank position off here. Perks chased out by hylissang, lands the petrifying gaze. hylissang's going to be taking up the tower. A couple of shots comes out. Reckless on his way in though. Perks flashes away. There's Miasma. Reckless can just chase them down. The Requiem will definitely be enough. Goodbye to Perks and Caps now dodging around as much as you can, but your fancy feet might not save you for too long. Nemesis jumps in. The Ignite ticks away, and Fnatic are 8 kills to 1 up. 15 minutes into this game, they are dismantling G2.
Fnatic are absolutely smashing in this game, and remember, last time it was G2 with the fastest game in LEC history up against Fnatic. Now it's Fnatic doing the exact same thing to G2.
Last time they met, Fnatic didn't get a tower. They only got 4 kills. At 15 minutes, they were 8,000 gold behind. This time, Fnatic show why they are continuing their march up the standings in the LEC.
And it is across the board. There are advantages except for Whippo, the poor man up in the top lane. He's had a great second half of the split, but he's also one of the players that often gets left behind. But even still, he's offering value. He's not falling too far behind. You can see in a 2 versus 1, he ends up walking away with his life. He dodges all of the shurikens. He also uses the W, the oranges, to keep himself alive, and is able to dodge away. And while all this is happening, hylissang looks for an opportunity onto Perks. He feels that he can go for this play, but then Reckless just dives in saying, you know what? Go back to mid lane, my friend, because you cannot compete with me, as the Requiem ends up securing that kill, and Caps, he ends up falling.
Oh my god, that's the thing though, is the Requiem canceled the recall from Caps. I think Caps was going to get out scot-free right there, but no, he can't go back to base, and Nemesis is there to secure yet another kill as the cherry on top.
Everything coming up in favor of Fnatic. We wondered whether G2 would be able to match him in the early game. They have not been able to do that. G2 maybe have the scaling advantage. They can put the Rise, the Zed in the side lane, but at this point, you're 5,000 gold ahead as Fnatic. You can 1v1 pretty much anyone on the enemy team.
Yeah, all the pressure falls on Wonder's shoulders right now because he's the only one that's even staying relatively close to the rest of Fnatic. He's at 7.1k gold to the 7.3 and 7.2 of Brox and Reckless. He has now completed his Archangel staff, and he's looking to improve that, along with getting a very early, needlessly large rod. So he's strong, but there are 4 other members of Fnatic that are just as strong as he is, and they're looking to push pushing the top tier 2.
Yeah, and notice what Fnatic are doing, right? They're moving as sort of a 4-man roaming squad through this top side of the jungle, just eliminate turrets off of the map. Currently, G2 don't have enough control wards to protect their own jungle, so Fnatic can walk in, deny vision away from G2, and just set up for picks against this team.
G2 licking their wounds a little bit. 6,000 gold behind, but they do have Wonder in an okay position in the side lane. They can still maybe find some of those outplays. We've seen Caps pull a rabbit out of a hat time after time in these games.
But we've never seen Caps 0-3 at 15 minutes.
That's true.
Except for when he went up against Rookie. And the reality is this guy's tried to make a bunch of plays so far this game rather, and he hasn't been able to make them pull off. A couple of poor decisions, like sitting in the shop, getting killed by EULCS, trying to go for a 2v1 outplay bot lane, has ended up in his demise. And now he is behind on this set as Wonder, just dodging out.
Phase rush enough to keep Wonder alive.
Such a speedy boy. Just runs away from that one. EULCS not able to lock him down.
And G2, what can this team do in this position? Because I think you sort of nailed it, right? Wonder is the player with gold in the bank right now. He's got the Archangel stacking up. Eventually he'll finish off the Rabadons or the Spellbinder as well. But then it's only sort of like 1v1 fights that he can take, because honestly, I think G2 need more time along the rest of them. So we see that replay one more time, and how Wonder can just lock up EULCS right before the
prison. Yep,
it touches.
Really good. Well done from him. Now we can see that G2 isn't completely conceding the map. They've actually got decent vision control over the top side of Fnatic's jungle. They know they can't challenge the next Mountain Drake, so they're not bothering to invest towards the bot side. And you can see that there is a lot of darkness towards the bottom of the map, so Cap showing a lot of respect towards the enemy.
G2 just trying to count their losses where they can. You can see Caps has the double lethality items now with the Dustblade, with the Yumus. You've got Trinity Force finished on Nemesis as well, so maybe if Caps just catches out someone, he can burst them down. 2 items on Reckless though as well, with the Blade of the Ruin King and the Black Cleaver complete. So you're looking at 1.5 compared to 2 items on the side of Fnatic.
Yeah, it's a very big difference right now, and honestly, G2 can't fight against Fnatic if they keep moving together as sort of this core 4-man unit. Where G2 do have some strength is their ability to isolate individual members with the Jarvan, the Alistar. If they can see a member get too far away from the rest of his team, like EULCS has done from time to time in the past, that is potentially where G2 can try to fight back and reclaim some territory on this map.
And the Baron has just spawned. Fnatic don't have the best Baron take because they don't really have a front line that can tank it, so I would be surprised if Fnatic made that threat. The one thing you have to be careful of as Fnatic is G2 rushing it down with a Cassio and with a Jarvan that's building full tank. They could sneak it from over the wall, and it's just something you have to keep in the back of your mind. Given the situation that G2's in and the gambles that they're not afraid to take, they will look for that kind of an opportunity.
Just as you talked about it, we saw 5 or 6 assist me pings come out on the Baron from Fnatic, so they knew it was a possibility. Roxa was there to react in time and stops G2 from sneaking anything away. But as we crest the 20-minute mark, game very much in Fnatic's favor. G2 have fought back from worse positions than this, though. I remember the Vitality game last week. They were absolutely getting dumpstered, and still they were able to hold on to their base, hold on to the game, and fight back.
And yet, in that game, we'd already seen, at this point at the 20-minute mark, Vitality making some mistakes. And what it came down to was splitting up members, going 2-3 members off in a side lane trying to get a tower. Now, Fnatic have not made those similar levels of mistakes because, honestly, I think that is where G2 can try to exploit Fnatic. If they were trying to sort of spread their luck too thin and try to take multiple towers in multiple lanes at the same time. But Fnatic are playing smart. And you said they take it slow, but they have a mountain to try and sneak this one away from right underneath G2.
21 minutes in, the Baron's been started. You can see Wonder still in the side lane, has the teleport to join the fight. Promiscu puts in the ward, 2,000 HP left on the Baron. Jankos has the flash. He has to try and steal it, but Reckless secures it. You can't outsmite the Lucian. They get the kill on Jankos as well, and they're going to follow it up with a little bit more. The Requiem comes out. Caps ignited to his doom, and Fnatic get 2. They get the Baron, and they get everything they wanted.
Massive play from Fnatic. The confidence to make that kind of a play.
Reckless dodged the petrifying gaze from Perks. He stared the other AD carry right in the eyes and said, "Get the hell back, back to mid lane. Fnatic just continue to outplay G2.
Reckless absolutely styled on Perks right now, and now with an open base Fnatic, they're going to be looking to take an inhibitor.
The inhibitor at least is going to go down. Jankos about to respawn. Caps on his way up as well.
Take it back to base, Wonder.
Stealing away the Razorbeaks. He can't get back to save the inhibitor, so instead he says, I'll take what little I can. Fnatic, though, are taking chunks out of the heart of G2 right now. They have an 8,000 gold lead, and they look like the better team today.
Oh, they absolutely do, and they set this up so well. They knew they had the time to try and take this one down. Jankos actually sneaks into the pit, but is unable to secure the Baron. And then watch as Reckless just jumps completely over the wall, trying to set up the kill. Caps knows he's dead to the Requiem, so he tries to come back and trade 1-for-1. But then this is the play. Reckless right on the fog before. He steps back here, dodges the petrifying gaze, and that leaves room for Nemesis to jump straight on forward and get another kill.
Beautiful stuff from Fnatic, and I thought they wouldn't try. It was still a risk to go for that Baron, but this is the difference from Fnatic. In the past, we've criticized them for not having the confidence to make those kind of plays, for taking their time, for being a little slow, but against G2, they show the same confidence that G2 tried to demonstrate. They take those gambles, they make those plays, and now they are at a 8,000 gold lead, and they're knocking on the doors of these tier 2 towers.
And look at this super stacked minion wave here that Fnatic have built up as well. So many ranged minions, so many melees as well, just sort of soak up the damage from this turn. In G2, they were thinking about forcing an engage, trying to find that 5 versus 4, but they realized Fnatic are too strong. Even in a numbers advantage scenario, G2 still don't think they can win the fight.
And again, the only small piece of hope for G2 is Wonder. Level 15 on the rise. He's kept even in gold. He has the death cap, but I don't know if it's enough as an engage begins.
Jankos jumps in, he's forced out straight away. Down to about 100 HP, the flawless Juliet hits onto Caps. Nemesis, though, jumped on with the death block. Caps jumping around as much as he can. Weber will take him out, but Nemesis falls as well. And now Hillesang in with the charm, with the engage. Promiscue has to flash away. Fnatic can continue to push in. The Realm Wall comes out, but the Requiem's going to follow them to their base. Forced away! That's a hell of a lot of damage as Fnatic get the second inhibitor of the game. Maybe even look for the win here, because Caps is still down instead. Hillesang will get the Baron buff on these minions up towards the top side.
And inside of the base, it is still a 4 versus 4, but 2 inhibitors are down in Fnatic. They want more. G2, they've got the health though. They went back to base and they're able to force Fnatic out of their territory.
And I think with a performance like this, you have to start asking yourself the question, are G2 still the best team in the league? Because right now, Fnatic look unstoppable. This is 6 wins in a row so far for them. This would make it lucky number 7.
Even with a sub, G2 are not looking of sorts as Fnatic are dumpstering them right now. G2, they tried to go for a last-ditch team fight, but the Jarvan goes in, immediately goes back out. Caps uses his fancy feet, but it's not enough to dodge the barrels from Wonder. And you can see that Wonder as well, just immediately they're just forced to disengage. And the Realm Warp doing a good job of helping the rest of his team getting back to base and healing back up, but the damage is done. 2 inhibitors are now down, and you can talk about scaling all you want, but Fnatic are not going to give G2 the room to breathe. Immediately they're back on the pressure. They have the rise on Wonder, and they're looking for a kill.
Wonder should be able to TP out of this one. Just escapes a keg to the back, but will be able to get away now. 2 super minion waves pushing in for Fnatic. 25 minutes in, they have an 8,000 gold lead. You're sitting at 2.5 completed items on Reckless, on Nemesis. Even Whippo has 2 items under his belt as well. He will have an impact in these fights if he's there.
Fnatic are in such a strong position, yet G2 still have to ask themselves the question, how do we approach a team fight? Because with 2 inhibitors down, G2 more than likely will have to pull the trigger around the top lane or around the Baron that spawns in a minute and a half. And what you have to be thinking is we have to explode a priority target. That means Reckless, Nemesis, or Broxah. Right now, Reckless has the stopwatch, so that is a much weaker option. But in the last fight, they were able to kill Nemesis. If they can single him off one more time, that's the only chance they have to try and keep themselves alive in this match.
Honestly, I think G2 are just trying to maintain as much vision control as they can around the top side of the map so they can go for a potential Baron steal. And if they can secure it, they can at the very least stall the game out for longer to get to a point where they can rely on their scaling. But again, Fnatic not slowing down. They're sieging on top. They force Perks back.
Jankos eats up the culling Seraphs, used as well by Perks. Minion waves pushing in the other side. Lanes the Vanguard's edge comes out. Hillesang with a double charm gets the 3rd as well. As they all just try and dive the tower, but Reckless almost goes down. Promiscue there. Caps fighting against Whipple down towards the bottom side. Has to flash away. The Death Rock will get him. And they get another kill underneath the tower. G2 has somehow turned it around. The Requiem comes out. Is it going to be enough? Caps trying to kill him before he gets out. It's not enough. And Caps will fall. Promiscue will follow shortly after. It's a double for Broxer, and still Fnatic are in this fight.
Broxer is able to turn it around on the back with the Requiem, but it's still a 2 versus 2 Fnatic. They want this turret so desperately. Can Perks and Wonder do anything? Not really, because Wonder has to defend against the super minions on the base.
eSports just tanking up the tower shots. Perks there trying to turn it back around onto Broxer, but doesn't have the ultimate, so can't really do too much. And Broxer 6-0-5 on this Karthus has very much come alive in this game.
But there you see the potential teamfight power of G2, the team you can never afford to underestimate. Look at Reckless. This time, he doesn't dodge out from the Cassie ultimate. He actually flashes straight into it. And while the stopwatch buys time, he's unfortunately underneath the tower. He loses all his HP, and he ends up dropping it. It is this ultimate that ends up ultimately keeping the fight even for the two teams. Promise you can't close the gap quick enough to interrupt, and it means that it ends up being a 3-for-3 overall. But G2 demonstrating they're getting these items. The scaling is still a thing for them, and Fnatic, they need to show that respect, or G2 can still come out in a team fight.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Fnatic now, they have control over the Baron. It's no longer them diving into G2, going underneath the tower. It is G2 coming to them. Can Jankos get the steal?
This is it, Jankos. Do or die. If you steal this, you can keep the hopes of G2 alive.
Here we go. He's on the blast cone. Reckless there as well. He blast cones away. He's giving it up. That's the Baron. Fnatic get it. 28 minutes in. It's the second Baron of the game for them, and with it, maybe the hopes of G2 have been quashed.
Here's the thing. Jankos can never go for that steal, because if he does, and he dies and loses the Baron, Fnatic just run into their base, take 2 inhibitors, or even end the game. As it stands, there are 2 exposed inhibs now that Fnatic have their eyes set on. No turrets to defend G2. And Fnatic, all they have to do is pull the trigger, go right on in, and cut down G2 where they stand.
When you listen to G2 comms after they beat Fnatic earlier in the split, they said that was personal. Caps dominated on the Zoe. 5-1-2, now 1-6-1 on this Zed. It feels pretty personal from Fnatic this time. 8,000 gold ahead. They're pushing in for these inhibitors. And all 5 members strong. They're going to try and push G2 back towards their own base. Reckless jumps in, caught out with the petrifying gaze, but no one can catch him. Nemesis down to about half HP immediately. The Requiem used. No one can get up to the back line, and that will be a lot of damage coming out from Boxer, but no one has fallen yet. Fnatic regroup, reset. Nemesis has to back away. Wonder with a lot of damage out. Reckless jumped on by Caps. Can he do it? The death mark isn't enough to pop. His Farmer AD carry not quite, but they force Fnatic back once again. The inhibitor line still stands.
Fnatic don't have the tank line to walk forward and knock down this inhibitor. G2 are able to play with their backs against the wall and keep their lives up in this match.
G2 demonstrating that they can hold the line. All 3 inhibitors have respawned. A Baron-empowered Fnatic was still not enough to end the game. Wonder is now level 18. Caps is starting to get those items completed, and G2, the longer this game goes, the better their scaling gets, and we get to see if G2 can keep up with the team fighting of Fnatic.
Look, we've had questions about G2's team fighting all split long, and now they're playing on hard mode, but you can see how they kite back here, how Wonder is able to just influence this fight so much. Even though he doesn't put down a lot of damage, you can see that the rest of Fnatic don't want to walk through this sort of corridor in the mid, and then Caps almost is able to find Reckless on the back end of this. The electrocute, just barely not able to secure the kill.
One more auto and ignite, that would have been enough to find the kill. So close between these two teams. And you wouldn't expect that. Fnatic have an 7,500 gold lead. They have the Baron buff. This should be just the game over, but G2 demonstrating that they can hold the line. They can do the impossible.
So what have we got in terms of ultimates here? Hylissang has his, but no flash. Does have the Sorellis if he wants to get on the back line. No flash on Reckless either. Caps has the death mark. Could try and catch out that enemy AD carry. He's only level 15 though. Really needs that 16 for the upgrade on the ultimate.
And for Fnatic, in order to threaten the inhibitor, they have to walk up the steps of the base. But there's so much threat here from G2 with the miasma, the threat of a petrifying gaze turnaround, the Jankos going in with the ultimate. This tight area of the map is so difficult for Fnatic to funnel into without having a strong front line. And that's why we're seeing this standoff at the moment where they just can't walk up to G2.
Cannon Barrage used Perks, hits the Petra against Promiscu jumps in as well, but it's only Nemesis left caught out and Perks already down to half HP. Brox are now pushing forward with the rest of Fnatic. They just want the inhibitor. They can push up towards the top side as well. Caps unable to get on the back line of that fight, and now Fnatic have broken open that inhibitor line once again. Quickness was used by Hylissang though, and G2, they're not going to fight over it. They give up both their inhibs.
Now the problem for G2 is they had 3 ultimates used in the back end of that fight, so they couldn't go for the re-engage, especially with Broxah still having the Requiem available. So Fnatic, they break through the defense of G2, they secure 2 inhibitors, and the pressure falls back onto the G2 esports squad.
And we've seen this situation before in this game where Fnatic have 2 inhibitors. G2 are trying to hold on to their 3rd and final inhib. Last time though, they had a turret at their side. Now their bottom lane inhibitor is left exposed. Fnatic have the opportunity now within the next 2 minutes try and break that line. And then they can set up for Baron and try to close this one out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we said that this would be the game of the century here in the LEC, and I feel like it is delivering so far.
And you guys can get involved in home as well. Vote in chat. Can G2 turn this game around? It would have been one of the biggest comebacks we have seen this split. Spam now, yes or no in Twitch chat. Can G2 turn this game on its head? We said it would deliver, Vedius. We said it would deliver, Ender. 2 teams with 11 EULCS or LEC titles between them.
It's close.
You give me this vote 5 minutes ago, that's 90% Fnatic. Right now, though, right on a knife's edge, just like this game.
So you can see that the inhibs in the bottom left of your screen will not respawn before the Baron is up. Fnatic will look to secure their 3rd Baron of the game, but before that, they have their eyes set on this bot inhibitor.
And right now, Fnatic see that Perks is clearing away minions in the top lane. He's actually going to teleport into a minion just to defend this inhibitor because Fnatic were going to make use of that opening. Now they have the minion line themselves, but the flank is here from Promiscu. It's making it very hard for Fnatic to step up.
Caps jumps away, Hylissang with the engage, straight onto the backline, Wonder goes golden. What can Promiscu do? He catches them out. Wonder's still there, still alive, Nemesis as well. Reckless has the death mark popping, it's not going to be enough damage, but here comes the Requiem. Wonder still alive, the rest of G2 still alive as well, but maybe the inhibitor will fall pretty soon afterwards. Whipple jumping in, Perks goes golden. Can they take the inhibitor in time? Because Wonder's back up, they forced them off. G2 still holding onto their base, but it's a 4v3. Jankos is very low. The next towers are the target for those super minions.
Fnatic have the time now to get the inhibitor. G2, they're running back to the fountain, trying to get some health underneath them so that they could threaten a turnaround. But now it is Fnatic with all 3 inhibitors, a Baron buff spawning as well. They can go back to base, heal up, and look to secure that objective to end the game.
Oh my word, these fights are so intense. I saw Caps and Jankos with blood in their eyes as they both dived onto Reckless, but G2, they recognize the situation. They have the Baron set. They're going for it. They have Perks on the Casio.
He's got to pull the trigger straight away. Hylissang here trying to catch up Perks, but can't quite get there. Promiscu gets a 3-man knockup. Wonder and Jankos are focusing down the Baron. 8,000 HP.
This is quick.
There's a fight up towards the other side though because Wimmer has the teleport. Caps is trying to keep him alive. There's 3,000 HP on the Baron. Fnatic, can they get in? Can Broxah do the steal? G2 get the Baron. Whipper forced away as well, but here comes the engagement. Hylissang locked up. He's dead. They get the shot.
Nemesis is here.
The Colin comes out. Nemesis here as well. Promiscu's to the ball. Broxah has the focus. He gets the kill! Here comes the Vanguard's edge! He's getting the stop! Reckless shot in! Reckless shot into his eyes! And now Nemesis there as well! We're both teleporting in! The base! Chaos is trying to defend the base! Wonder gets the triple kill! Nemesis onto Jankos! They need to get out! The base!
He wants it! He wants it!
Nemesis trying to keep him around! Jankos is so low! The teleport gets out! Nemesis gets the kill but gets taken out as well! The base is still alive! And G2 survive in this game!
This is the greatest game ever! G2 defend the base, the Nexus is still alive. Medic, catch your breath. G2 that actually keep this game alive as Fnatic lose 4 members. The gold doesn't matter.
Oh my god! G2 with the split-second call to go to the Baron to start it up, and they take it down. And then it's Fnatic just trying to run in, trying to force the fight. But watch how Wonder just explodes Hylissang, and then they're going to come back up forward here and destroy Brox as well.
And meanwhile, while all this is happening, you can see on your minimap in the bottom right that the super minions are just pushing in. All 3 are exposed, and only Zed is left to defend. So Fnatic is just like, just buy time, just stall, just don't let them get back to base. But then Wonder makes the split-second decision to go, I'm teleporting, guys. Just keep them off me, keep me alive, and I can help us save the game.
Oh yeah, Nemesis hops over the wall to trade one more kill for his life. And while that Baron was going down, it was a 1v1 between Caps and Bwipo. The Caps was winning, and look how the tides have turned, Europe.
You guys can turn that around though. Spam in chat, FNC if you think Fnatic will take the win, G2 if you think G2 will win it. There's no Nexus towers left. There's no inhibitors left. Well, they've started to respawn, but the fact that we could still see G2 winning this game from this position is absolutely gobsmacking.
Now, importantly, coming into this next fight, if Fnatic want to walk into the base of G2, they have 0 flashes on their side. Flash will be so pivotal inside of this team fight because right now, G2 have scaled up. They have the damage. Wonder is so strong. You have to be able to single him out and knock him down.
But I also, Caps.
Oh, doesn't want to jump onto Hylissang.
But let's also take appreciation of the levels right now. Remember how far behind all of G2 were. 18 for Wonder, 18 for Caps, 18 for Perks. Their builds are nearly fully complete. And meanwhile for Fnatic, because they haven't been generating a lot of gold, they've just been constantly sieging. They're actually down in levels. They're not even fully completed in terms of itemization yet. And the gold difference is only 2k now.
Yeah, I mean, because there have been super minions flooding into the base of G2 for the better part of the last 15 minutes here, Vedius. Fnatic, even though they are down in levels, though, they still have complete control over this map. They have 4 Drakes at their side, which means that when the Elder Dragon comes up, they're going to have control over that area. They're going to be able to try and take that one down and get the massive teamfight buff.
This game has been going hell for leather for the last 15 minutes. Just want to remind everyone here in the studio, everyone at home, if Fnatic win this, they lock their spot in playoffs. They are secure. If they lose against G2, they still have to fight tomorrow. Caps has a bit of a flank off here as Hylissang's forced away. Will escape for the moment. It's just resetting the pressure. G2, get some time, get a bit of breathing room. They can actually move out of their base for the first time in a long time.
And after they take that really good trade, that's the important part. Maybe they can start to take some more control over this map because it will be the Elder Drake to be the next priority, but they know that their base is still exposed, and to leave, even for a little bit, is risky.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Berlin, the teams need your support more than ever right now. The gold means nothing. The difference between these two teams is so small, but G2 now in the late game with their composition. We said it before, I didn't think they would get to this point, and I thought Fnatic with the lead they had built up would be able to close it out, but one team fight in the top lane that didn't go their way, that one ultimate from Perks that landed onto Reckless, that shut him down, bought enough time for G2 to get to this point. Now both teams facing off once more. The Baron spawns in a minute 30, but it is the inhibitors that are Fnatic's target. Let's see how things play out.
All 3 inhibitors back up. Nemesis takes a bit of chip damage from Caps. Hylissang has the flash engage, has the opportunity to strike. A moment's notice. A single blink of your eye and you might miss it, because that is all that these teamfights are going to come down to. It's the minuscule moments. The Cannon Barrage comes out, the culling to follow. Caps gets a bit of damage in from the side as Boxer chipped out with the Shurikens, but the inhibitor's still alive, and that's all G2 are looking for at the moment. Cannon, the kegs still connecting as well from Whipper, but he's not as high damage as he would like to be.
So you talked about flashes earlier on, and pretty much all the summoner spells are back up except for Jankos' and Wonders that are just coming up now. Perks up relatively soon. 2 ultimates were used there, both Whippo and Reckless' ulti, but G2 still hesitant to engage. Here it is.
Jankos jumps in, Hylissang forced away. That's his W use. That means he doesn't have that engage tool anymore to jump in, but Jankos did have to use the Cataclysm to get it out.
Bwipo also had to use the flash to get over the wall, so Fnatic sticking around is actually very difficult now to walk in towards the inhibitor. What they want to do is they want to keep the pressure on G2 for the next 20 seconds. That means G2 won't have time to walk back and put vision here on the Baron. Last time G2, the only reason they got the Baron was because they made a split-second call and out-rotated Fnatic. Fnatic will not give them that opportunity this time around.
Let's have a look at how we are in terms of builds. Almost a Rabadon's Death Cap complete on Perks. You've got 4 completed items on Caps as well. Look at how big Wonder is in that top lane. Basically full build. Could sell the boots for something else if he wanted, but not going to do that yet.
I mean, Wonder has been by far the MVP of this game for G2. Not only did he build a huge lead in the 1v1 up towards the top side, but the fact that he's been so valuable in these fights, the decisions he's made in the heat of the moment, and the amount of damage he did to the Baron to even secure it for his team has just been so huge. And if G2 do somehow find this comeback, I feel like it's going to come off the back of Wonder's shoulders.
It absolutely will have to. Now, my question for Fnatic is, do they want to wait for this Elder Dragon to spawn? Again, it's very hard for G2 to get vision on Baron, let alone on Baron and the Elder as well. If they wanted to, they could forego starting this one up and send someone to solo it, but they want to start up the Baron. They're going to force Jankos to come into the pit quick.
Looking for the steal already. It's gone, though. Fnatic get their second Baron, third Baron of the game. And now G2 need to work out. Do you fight around Elder? Can you leave your base undefended? Perkz was in the bottom lane answering a wave. Teleport comes in here as well as the teams rejoin. It's going to be a fight around the Elder Dragon, you feel, but Fnatic say, no, we have push prior, we have the Baron, we can just push in this mid wave.
I feel like G2 have to go for a fight soon. The death cap has now been completed for Perkz. They need to have the confidence to make this play a reality. But it's so risky. You don't want to be the player that makes that mistake that costs your team the game. And Fnatic, they know they have priority, as you said, Medic, and immediately back down towards the Elder. They want everything to be in as much of their favor as possible before they commit to a fight.
Fnatic will shred this Baron so quickly. 4 elemental Drakes. G2, they know they have to look for the team fight before the objective goes down. It's getting low. Jankos has to make a move.
6,000 HP left on the bat, and the Realm Warp coming out as well. They're just going onto the back. They're looking.
Oh my God!
A great flank! G2, the perfect team fight! They take it all! They take down 3! They even get the chase down as well! The Elder will be in their eyes as Fnatic just die one by one!
G2 absolutely destroyed Fnatic in the bot lane. River Hylissang is doing what he can to run into the base, but Jankos is on the prowl.
It's enough.
It's not going to do it!
He got the edge of Night Shield just in time. Hylissang still trying to take down the inhibitor. Can he get it with these bound up minions? The Elder Dragon not the target. G2 pushing him mid. Hylissang still there on the inhibitor. Is he actually going to be able to do too much here with the ignite? He knocks Snackums up. He's just looking for the inhib.
Forget about the bot lane. Look at the mid lane. There are 2 members of G2 pushing in right now. The death timers are at 20 seconds. I don't know if G2 can look to end the game right now.
There's no way they do this. They were 8,000 gold behind. They had nothing. 15 minutes in, they were getting demolished. But somehow, once again, G2 find a way to turn the game right back on his head.
G2, it was a brilliant flank there with Wonder's Realm Warp. He is stepping up to the plate. An absolute carry performance from the G2 top laner. And now it is their turn to take down the Elder Dragon and take control in this game.
Beautiful spot there, and I was sitting to myself, how did Promiscue get here? How is he creating the flank? And it was all thanks to Wonder getting onto the back line. Oh, just such an exquisite game, a constant back and forth, extremely exciting fights.
And leave it to G2 to see an opening that no one else could have seen. They got the perfect flank onto Fnatic, the perfect team fight. And this all started 20 minutes ago with G2's heroic base defense, just trying to hold on. Remember, there are no turrets left for G2. They had their backs against the wall, and they are now the ones in control.
I remember a while ago I looked up how often a team wins after losing 3 inhibitors. 0.1% of the time. 0.1. And G2, they lost their Nexus towers. They lost it all. They lost hope in the game, but they kept on fighting. They stood tall, and they forced Fnatic back. Fnatic fighting for their place in playoffs. A win here would secure it for them. If they lose here after this performance, that's got to be pretty demoralizing, and they would have to work their way through Splice tomorrow.
And now Fnatic. You know, we've talked a lot about G2 because, you know, they've made this comeback happen. They're now at a point where they're, you know, in even footing. And in terms of the straight 5v5, we've seen it. Fnatic can't win anymore. They need to go for some incredible play. And as you guys have already mentioned, there are no towers. All it takes is the commitment from Fnatic to just rush down that Nexus and potentially end the game. There is very little that stands in the way of Fnatic securing the win. And so G2 have to keep their eyes open because Fnatic will always look for that option. They will always keep their eyes out. If you overstep a teleport, if you overstep flashes, one small mistake could still cost this game for G2.
And it means that even now, the G2 have the gold advantage. They picked themselves up the Elder Dragon. Well, with Baron spawning another time in this game in a minute and a half, G2 still are going to be hesitant to leave their base because, quite honestly, Fnatic could still make a bum rush play and look for the end.
We heard people talk about it before the game even started. Match of the week will give you match of the flipping century, and this game has lived up to that. The longest game of the split now as we crest the 46-minute mark.
Okay, his Elder...
Now, his Baron.
Oh, sorry, Elder Drake just ran out.
Just
That's
ran
what
out
there we go, there
on
we go.
the side
Yes,
of G2.
Inhibitors, you can see this time is down your bottom left screen. Both should be respawning at about the same time. Neither team really been able to leverage that. Full builds pretty much across the board. Perkz working on his 6th. It's still a very close game. Both teams very hesitant. Like, you never get to practice this point in the game. You know, when there's no real objective to play around, when everything is exposed, it's all about who makes that play. It is about those clutch moments, those crucial decisions that will win you these games, because you can't play smart, perfect League of Legends at this point anymore.
With Quickshot not being on the show this weekend, I want to give a little quick stat as a shout out. These two teams now hold both the shortest and the longest game of the LEC split. It's been an impressive performance. What a game. The middle of the day as well. We still got 2 games to go after this.
Yeah, I mean,
but we're done betting after this. We're done.
I think these players will be done after this one as well.
We did not think this game would be approaching the 50-minute mark, approaching our 4th or 5th Baron. I've lost count, guys, honestly. It's the 4th Baron, and now G2, they're going to teleport
I think
in
it's the
wonder.
5th Baron. And this, I think, is the 6th. I don't know. Either way.
It doesn't matter because it's already been started up by
Here we go,
Fnatic.
here we go.
Baron going, the double mountains are the target. That's gone. G2 pushing mid. They're realm warping. They're realm warping in. G2 are going into the base. The Baron buff, though. They can get the recalls. How many can they stop? G2, you've got to stop them all. You've got to stop them all. They're in the base. G2 are looking for the win. Can they pull it off? The realm warp. Once again, the red wheel goes out. They wait. The Nexus. Oh, no! No way! The Nexus towers in the right side. G2 get the first one, but Reckless and Intersect get in the back door. Oh my God! No flipping way! You can do that to them!
Fnatic! It looked like they were going to end the game. G2, they were on the Nexus. We thought that was it, but they made the split-second decision to just rush the Nexus. The inhibitor, it was literally respawning. There was like no time in it.
That is the best single call I think I have ever seen in League of Legends. Getting the Baron, trying to get out, trying to get back, and then be like, no, screw it. They want to backdoor us. We can do exactly the same thing to them.
You can't practice that. These teams, in the split second, in the late game, at the 50-minute mark, made the call. G2 saw the opening. They knew they had the inhibitor in mid. They said, stop the bases. We will kill their Nexus. But Fnatic saw the same thing. They just went straight for the G2 Nexus.
I'm looking at the screen right now. There was what, 1 second?
2 seconds at most. Like, screw the rest of the split. Give me 5 games of that. Give me playoffs. Give me Rotterdam. If it lives up anywhere close to this, LEC is just the best. For our match of the week, you guys can vote for Brox and Nemesis and Reckless as your key player of the game. Vote for all of them. Who cares? They all did an incredible job. Go at eSports on Twitter with your pick. Every one of those players stepped up. Nemesis especially in the early game after Caps demolished him last time. He had an incredible performance. Broxer on the Carthus doing everything in the early game. Reckless with the flipping
I mean, he killed the Nexus, right?
He got the 50 gold. He got everything that mattered. And I've got to take a breather. You guys talk.
That was actually incredible. What a great game. And you can sit there and say but Fnatic missed. I think, sure, there were moments where Reckless made misplays in 2 of those late game fights. Those were the moments where G2 punished and saved the game. There was one where the ulti came in from Perkz and it bought enough time, but it was just high-level team fights. It was crazy gameplay. Everyone stepped up across the board. Fantastic game.
it was just next level. Every single fight, every single moment kept me on the edge of my seat, and I'm sure it did our analysts as well. Shox, we're going to hand it over to you because my voice is gone. These guys have done enough talking. Shox, please take it away.
Our voices are almost gone as well. There is no way to describe what we just saw. You thought we were kidding with the match of the century? Well, here you freaking go. Fnatic with the most memorable and most dramatic finish we have ever seen, and to do it over G2 eSports, it's freaking poetic.
I really have no words.
Yeah, I
about
was
that
gonna
game.
thank
I
you.
mean,
What are we supposed to analyze?
Oh God.
Crazy. All right.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about in that game, but like in the wake of what is just an incredible moment in League of Legends, that kind of finish, it's hard. It's really hard to say anything that does it justice, right?
We were even talking about to backdoor
Yeah,
Ocelot
yeah.
again from Fnatic.
So, and what I want to draw the attention to is, before this, we said how important this was for momentum. And then maybe as a G2 fan, you can say, yeah, momentum, my whatever, because we're still in first place. But now you lose this game when you pulled it back from the jaws of defeat in spectacular fashion, and you lose to a base race, to Fnatic, who you're going to meet in playoffs most likely. Oh.
I mean, it's absolutely brutal. And Fnatic look more and more scary. And G2 aren't even the people that I'm most scared for after that game.
No.
It's anyone who gets them in the quarterfinal equivalent matchup.
All right, let's take a look at the base race if we can, because I saw stars, honestly, when it came to that moment, and it looked like G2 had the right idea. Peel off the Baron, hold them from backing, and run mid with the Ryze ult. Guys.
I mean, I didn't understand what was Reckless doing here. I thought he was trying to recall, and then in the moment he jumped to enemy base, I was like, oh, they're actually gonna do a base race, both of them. But G2 didn't have Nexus towers, so it was easy for Fnatic to come into this. Holy moly.
Okay, watch that back and tell me, dear audience, Realm Warp missed the minions. And that's like a 2-second difference. Now, they still ran ahead, but Realm Warp did not hit those 2 creeps. And if they had gotten the tower debuff, they might have won the game. Now, there's a million other times where this was definitely a game of inches, but that is the clearest example where this was a game of inches.
You know what? I'm going to get back to you, because I want to hear from one of the winners. And Laura is standing by with Brox after that. Please, just talk.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Even I am speechless right now. I was still shaking through the end of the game. You turned it around. It's like, it's really the match of the century. And you managed to bounce back after the worst possible start in Fnatic's history. And you're like in playoff with this one. How do you feel right now, Broxa? Especially after beating G2.
Well, after this game, I feel so amazing. Like, you know, I think the reaction after the game showed it. I think we went just as crazy as we did when we, won our semi-final at Worlds. Like, it was completely insane, and this game meant a lot to us, not only because we got to playoffs, but we beat G2, and then in this completely insane game, like, it feels so good.
I gotta ask though, how do you go from losing in what was the fastest game in history of Europe to this?
Well, to be fair, I don't think this game was the best representation of our team either. I think we should have closed it much earlier as well, and it ended up being so much more stressful than it should have been. And it feels good knowing that we can now actually, really get a big lead against G2 in the early game, especially after what happened last time. But at the same time, I would highly prefer us closing this one out in 20 minutes rather than stalling it out and all of us having to shake in our pants on stage like this.
It's nice that you mention it, because you could have lost this one going through the end of the game. What were you feeling when you saw that G2 were bouncing back on you?
Well, honestly, it started getting a little nerve-wracking towards the last 5-10 minutes, because even before that, we didn't really find an opening to end the game, but we were still in, with a really big lead, and especially I was in such a strong position this whole game. I was really fed, dealing so much damage with my R button, and just generally we were in such a good spot until the last 5-10 minutes where they actually all had full items, and that big early game lead we got ourselves didn't really matter anymore.
The fans being loud today. Let's try something here. If you could talk to your old self when you had doubts earlier this split, what would you say?
I would say that even though things were looking really rough, and even though it was really depressing, really frustrating at times, to just keep believing, keep the hope up, stay positive, and just like first and foremost, just don't lose confidence and believe in this team. And I know that deep inside, I always had the hope. I think we all did, and that's also part of why we did manage to turn this around.
Well, thank you for staying focused through all this. They're being really loud today, and they should be, because Vitality will be playing soon. But first, let's send it back to Shox.